Okay, so we have between us the speaker of the evening, Raj Pratim Bhattacharya. Hi Raj, can you hear us? I mean, hear me. It's just me speaking. Yeah, you can turn on your video as well. Hello, Raj, can you hear me? You're muted currently. Okay, so Raj will be joining us within a few minutes. Till that time, yeah. So Mrinal, you were telling me what exactly is a pen tester. Yeah, come on. Enlighten all of us, Raj.
Yeah, it's better now. Am I audible?
Yeah, Raj, you're audible.
So let me share my screen also.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm making you the co-host. And yeah, you should be able to turn on your video now.
Okay, good. Am I visible?
Great. Yeah, so we can test your what happened. Yeah. So we can test your audio and video now, and we can see if you can share the screen. And till that time, other mentees will join us. Can you hear me, Raj? You're muted.
Okay, good. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah. I'm just making sure the background and everything is fine. Yeah. Okay, and I should test the screen share. How do we share screen here? Uh, FaceTime tools. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm just looking how to share screen. Okay, yeah, it's here. Yeah. All panelists. Let me just. Or okay. Who can? Okay, that is fine. All panelists now. Why is it not giving options? How do we make that thing? Okay, good.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
This is fine. And okay. Uh, like I should not be sharing my screen throughout the right. Like I don't. I will be
No.
sharing.
Only when.
Yeah.
Yeah, only when you want to show that thing.
Like now, how do we stop this? Okay. Yeah.
You can see it either on the bottom of your screen or on the top of your screen. There is a tab that says stop sharing screen.
Notice that, yeah, stop video is there. Stop video is this thing. Q&A, pause share, remote control. You are sharing screen. Yeah, here,
Yeah.
stop sharing. Okay. Yeah, this is nice. I actually don't use Zoom too much. That's why I was a bit confused. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's 8 o'clock and I think we can begin now. So
Yeah,
guys,
sure. We'll just.
welcome to this webinar organized by MyCaptain in collaboration with Qfuss. Qfuss is a mentorship platform with a community of experts who can guide individuals throughout their career journey. And Qfuss hosts coaching and workshops in different topics to enhance your skills. And so you can check them out at qfuss.com. I will drop their website in the chat box. And yeah, so let's begin with the webinar today. We have Raj Bhattacharya with us, and he is a software development engineer at Amazon. So hi Raj, how are you today?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you for asking. Meenal, right? Your name?
My name is Yashi.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's written Meenal Prakash. I'm not sure who is it. Okay.
Okay, great. So the first question that I have for you, Raj, is tell us something about yourself, your education, and your career so far. How has it been?
Okay, fine. So like I'm currently a software developer in Amazon, and I've been working for 1 year here around. And before joining Amazon, I was a 6 month intern here in Amazon. And I did a 5 year dual degree course. It includes BTech, MTech. I was from a college called IIEST Shibpur. It's in Kolkata, and uh, so my journey from being a college student to getting to MNC in Amazon, it's like it's pretty straightforward, like everyone does it. Like I did prepared for interviews and data structure algorithm, these kinds of things. Like I will share in details what are the things I did. And like before joining Amazon, I was also part of one startup. And also I was very fortunate that I was very early, like in second year of mine, I was fortunate enough to sell one of my app also. So it was like a mix of entrepreneur and being a regular software developer. So I will share it everything, like how people can use both of them. So yeah, so that's it about myself.
Okay. So you're currently working as a software engineer at Amazon, right? And so
Yes.
can you tell us more about the work culture at Amazon and how it's like to be working at Amazon?
Yeah. So Amazon is like typical American company which have like very open culture. Like yeah, this the leadership structure is pretty flat. There you can talk to anyone, and it's a mixture of this being disciplined and having the freedom. So a lot of time people get confused that having a freedom is like you can do anything anytime, but it's like and they trust their employees a lot. Like it's like a very they provide a lot of freedom, and as an individual, as an employee, they trust you that you will do good things. They don't like the working thing. Work is like you're allotted work for 1 month. Like for 1 month, you plan things up. Now it's like you plan that, yeah, these are the things that I will do in 1 month. Then in the month, in middle of the month, no one will ask you how things are going and what are the things. But it's like it's upon you. Like by end of the month, you have to complete the work. But it's like you can work at night, you can work at day. Like it's there are no restrictions. It's very open. Like what should I say? Like there's a lot of freedom. Like if I'm busy, I may skip the whole day, and maybe I can work at night, or maybe 2 days I can work very hard and I can take leave for 3 days. So these kinds of things I can do. So yeah, it's like pretty good, and lots of opportunities are also there. Like I've been to Seattle also. Like I'm also 1 year here, and lots of opportunities is there. I was supposed to go again, but because of the this whole Corona thing, I couldn't go. And overall, there's a lot of good opportunities. Like in terms of work, it's like very crux. There's often a misconception there that if you work in a big company, there's not much of work. But at Amazon, it's it's like a lot of startups built together to form a big company. It's like that. So that's why individual teams work as a startup.
Okay. That's very interesting, Raj. So, can you tell us more about the roles and responsibilities of a software engineer?
Um, Roles and responsibilities. Like software development is actually pretty what should I say, it's a pretty broad term. Like it's not like you are going to develop only a specific app, or you are going to develop a specific role. Like you're expected to be working on everything. But like there's a different roles. Like there are what we call as DevOps engineer or support engineer or developer in Amazon they call. And then there's a software developer. So DevOps engineer is something like where you actually work with like uh, when you work on a software development, you have to do a lot of setups, a lot of technicalities are there. You have to manage maintain the app, maintain the fleet, all the hosts and everything. These kinds of things are done by DevOps. And software developers usually work on the core thing, like they work on the product and maintain. And it's like in Amazon, the work culture is like there's no concept of tester. Like the person who's writing the code is actually responsible for testing it all also. And like you may be working in UI at a particular day, and maybe you will be working on an exact trucks backend on a day. So there's no as such definition that UI engineer, backend engineers, such specialized terms are not there. Everybody is expected to work on everything, and it's like that. But definitely there are limitations, like there are research specific rules as well, like the soft what we call machine learning, these kinds. These are some specialized areas, like they have different people for that also. But as a developer, like, and you are supposed to be the person who can design things and implement things, so it's like that.
Okay. So, so you've told us so much about being a software development engineer. So tell us more about what kind of skills you need to be one.
um like if I tell you like about the skills, so it's like it's actually a mix of things. Most important is you have to have a very good grasp of like there are two things. One is to how to enter into these big companies. Like for entering into any of the technology companies, you have to be very good with data structure and algorithms. Like otherwise you can't clear the interview. So before you specialize in any kind of skill, you have to first specialize in that skill. Now once you enter here, then again you have to have that learning ability, that you should be able to learn new things. Like if it is if it's, let's say, a new UI technology, then you have to learn that thing. If it is about a backend thing, you have to learn that thing. And if with AWS everything is changing so much, like every day you have to learn. So it's basically your ability to learn. But at the same time, if you have some experience with building a full stack app, that is from front to back end with hosting and everything, that will come out as a handy. Like when you work again in Amazon or in any of the company, it will, like, you will have better experience. You won't face that glitch always. So it's like that. And usually I feel like the people in during the college who have done a lot of end-to-end thing, like not only they have worked on UI, but like they have hosted the full app into the cloud, and like they know end-to-end things. Like they can they have done work on full thing. They are pretty much more comfortable while working, at least as a start in the initial days. They feel less crunch. So yeah, definitely it's helpful if you know about things. But the most important thing is you have to have the ability to learn.
Right, right. So there is something like, something like tips that are used while deploying an app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deploying an app is actually a pretty different story. Like yeah, if I tell you, like what happens is like deployment usually if you look at any app, all the bugs that comes on when a new version of the app came, right? So like that's why you have to be very critical, like whenever a new app a new version is being deployed. So a lot of testing has to be done. So this is one thing, like in Amazon we take focus a lot when we do a deployment. We do a lot of testing. This is thing. So like there are two things. Like if you are working on a I won't say startup, like there are big companies also, like these big banks. Let me give you an example. So just okay. Yeah. So in D Shaw, it's a big company, but like I have a few of my friends there. So what happens there is like they have few big customers. So maybe they would have like 1,000 customers who will be paying, let's say, in millions. Fine. So million into thousand, maybe they are making a business in billions. But in Amazon, let's say we have, let's say, millions of customers and they're paying thousands. So we again have $1 billion revenue. So the approach is different. So while they deploy things in Dsha or these kinds of companies, there they like they have a lot of free hand, because their, what should I say, their target area, like if things goes wrong, the blast radius will be much less because it is used by less people. So like they can deploy it between any hours or these kinds of things, and if anything goes wrong, they can again do the testing. But in Amazon or these kinds of companies, what happens is, like this is your code this is your code in, let's say, in your local or in GitHub, and this is the actual production version. So before code goes from your host to the production version, there's actually 12 to 20 hours gap. So a lot of testings actually happens within those 20 hours. So they try to mock everything, all the situation, but still definitely always bugs still come up, but they try to minimize these kinds of things. So I would say one tip I would say is like always test before. Like it doesn't matter if you're a big company or a small company. If you are in a big company or in a small company, always focus on doing a lot of end-to-end testing.
Okay, so that was the tips. Now, can you show us how to actually do that? Can you share your screen and show us the steps of deploying an app?
Yeah, just give me a second.
Yeah.
Um, So before I share my screen, I would give you some brief view about AWS also. Let me
Yeah.
just first share my screen. I'm not sure if it's happening or not. Is my screen being shared?
No, not yet.
Okay, let me.
Tanmay, please drop your comments in the chat box. We'll definitely take them up.
So
And make
can you see my screen?
yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, cool. So this is actually the AWS console. Let me go through it. So I have opened this app into incognito because I actually work in AWS only. So like we have a different version internally. So yeah. So basically, this is when you log into the AWS. This is the console screen that you look up. Now there are few things like AWS. Let me go from the start. If I click on the AWS. Yeah, okay, fine, like let's go here. So there are a lot of additional features in AWS, like a lot of new technologies are getting added every day. But when it comes to app development, there are three four basic things. One is a virtual machine, and one is a hosting server, and then there are these testing suites that you can do all kinds of testing, and then there are API level support, like there could be a support for, let's say, machine learning and all these kinds of things. Like machine learning is just a thing. There could be support for different kinds of API, different kind of data pipeline. Also the big data is another thing. So these are different things. Now there are, like, if you are work let's say if you are working on a what should I say, if you are working on a very big complicated system, like which is not a standard application, like for example, like let's say your server is defined in Python, but it is also calling Java, or it is also interacting with Node.js server, and it also has TensorFlow running in between. So a lot of different technologies are interacting together. So when you do these kinds of things, then you should always be working with a virtual machine. Like at that time, what happens is you can't host your server you can't host your server in regular track. Like, or then what you have to do is you have to launch a virtual machine, and there you have to host. So if I tell you about virtual machine is like basically a local desktop, and you SSH into that machine, and you like you do regular, you may clone the code from your GitHub and then run regular no command. Let's say in Java you can run the Java command, and Python you can run the Python command to run the server and make that thing accessible. But another thing, like for this demo, like what I was thinking was, like another technology that people usually do is like when they're, let's say, working on a standard web application. If you are working on a standard web application, then what will happen is it is like, let's say you're only working in React, or you're only working in Node.js or Python, and for simplicity, let's say PHP. So in these things, what happens is it's a standard framework. Now only thing you need to know is like how to host that web application into the web. So this the fastest way to do that is using elastic beanstalk. Now elastic beanstalk is basically web application. Now for this demo, let me show you two things. Okay, car rental, these things, yeah. Just a second. Let me just see if this thing is running fine. Okay, so this is a 403 forbidden. Yeah, this thing will go later. But basically, what happened? Let me move this thing a bit. So what I will do is, I have a, let's say, a zip file. Let's say this is a PHP file. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this thing, but like PHP web application is very simple. Like they have this PHP file where we write PHP scripts. We have CSS, and some images are there. Fine. Like this is very basic application. I'm giving it just for purpose, for demoing purpose. Now what you will see is like if I, let's say, if I want to host this application into my website, so what I will do is like I will give it like some name, like AWS sample PHP demo. I give this a name. I can also give it a description. For now, let's say I give the name and description as same, and yeah, then I create this application. Now no environment, I currently use, I will create new one. So I select that I am looking for a web server environment. Now, yeah, okay, this is fine. Domain. Yeah. Now here, if you look at it, so again, some kind of description I can give. Now here, what will happen is like you can go for a platform. Like I told you, like what platform you are using when you are working with a plain application, that is everything is hosted in a single language. Then for now, let's say I'm going for PHP, then you can go for Java, Node, everything, all this kind of. So I selected, then I have to select the upload your code. Now when you upload the code, it's basically like this is the code. I just go zip that thing into, let's say, that directory into zip file php.zip, and then I just upload the file. And so once this is done, like I then create the environment. This will take 3-4 minutes before the service can actually run. But yeah, so before the service can actually run, but like meanwhile this is happening, it will give some updates. I have already done it for you. Like if I go here in my applications, I will see that this thing PHP sample app that we created before. And if I click here, after that deployment gets completed, I will get a URL for this thing. And if I click this site, like basically if I click on it, then the actual website will get loaded. So this is the web content of the PHP site. That congratulations, this was a sample AWS SDK for PHP, and you can click. So whatever behavior we have defined in inside that. So it is a simple. Basically, we are routing. Like if I go here, let me open it in a new tab. Yeah. So here, like, yeah, there are different links that I have given for which are routing to different AWS websites. Now here, basically what is happening. So basically this was a simple web app. Now this thing can be extended. Like there are a lot of like these kinds of websites where you can directly download a lot of ready-made ready-made template, and then you can download them and then tweak them a bit, and may like change the content and change the images, and then you can deploy that thing directly to the AWS, and then you can host them directly. So like especially like for students, I believe it's very important to have a profile website where they showcase some of their work and these kinds of things. So they can do it like this. Like they can use AWS, they can use they can use AWS to host their these kinds of applications, these kinds of things. I have seen a lot of people these days, they are using Wix and these kinds of automated websites, but you actually don't need, because AWS has already simplified those things very well. Like you can just download, let's say, some template and edit some values, edit some images, and then just upload it directly. That's it, I think. So if you guys have any doubt, you can write it. I will respond to that. And well, when we are discussing about portfolio website, I can give you one example, like how I was have just a second, how it, a very small story. So I was in my second year back then, and I was working on a project. It was like a health device. So I was working with a professor. Basically, it was more like a Bluetooth connectivity where we are emitting from the from the blue. There are a lot of health sensors, and from that sensors, we are basically emitting that to a mobile, and mobile was uploading it to the server. This was very simple application. I demoed that thing into in my website. I hosted that thing there, and I also was very active with open source. So there was one there was one open source organization. It was called OpenMRS. So there was one group chat that they have, a community chat, I should say, and there I displayed that, yeah, this is the work that I did, and I want to integrate my work with this. OpenMRS is basically a healthcare recording system that is an open source. So like I wanted to connect my application with them, so I posted that into the community. And then there was this gentleman from US. So he was basically of Indian origin. He has a company in Bangalore. He has his own startup, and he contacted me that, yeah, this is our, they were trying to do something similar, and I already have a ready-made application. So they told me that if we can come to Bangalore and we can discuss some business potential of selling this thing. And I was very excited. So it was me and one of my very close friend back then. We were both in, I think, second year only. And second year, I think it will be fourth semester. And then yeah, my friend is now in Google and I'm in Amazon. But yeah, back then we were hoping for this business adventure, so we went there in Bangalore. And yeah, like whatever, and they actually, we demoed everything and they liked it, and we integrated that application into their actual web application, and then they used it. So we actually sold it for, like, back then I think we sold it for 35K. Like, so 35,000 was a good amount for a second year student, right? Like, it could have been gotten a lot of things, but at that time we were very happy that this is being used. So that was the thing, one experience I had. So like, I was very active with open source, and that's what I would always promote you guys, that focus on open source most. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. So while we're on it, tell us some features of AWS.
Yeah. So about AWS is like, what should I say? AWS is basically, it's like, backend, complete backend. So like previously, like historically, what used to happen is, like, people used to develop their own hosted servers. People used to have their own database administrator. Like, if it was a small startup company back then, let's say into early 2000s, so back then people used to have a lot of different kinds of, like, they don't only used to hire software developers, they also have to hire system administrator, they also have to hire database administrators. So these different kinds of administrators they have to hire to manage everything by own. But what AWS have done is, like, they have ready-made database that is already that is ready to be plugged into your service. Like, they have something called as DynamoDB for NoSQL. Then we have Redshift for SQL. So different kinds of databases that you can directly, like, you can use their databases. You can host your service on their server for free. The speciality of AWS was, it coined a term called elastic. So traditionally what used to happen in Amazon, that during certain seasons we used to have a lot of traffic, and after that peak seasons goes, we have very, like, not very few, but like comparatively less traffic. So that's why what we used to do in like people used to do in Amazon is, like, during these times they occasionally scales the service up. Before that, what companies used to do is, like, they used to calculate that, yeah, this is the peak hour. Like, let's say during Diwali I need 100 servers, so they used to order 100 servers for a year. But Amazon proposed this concept, and that you only order 100 servers during the peak events, and for rest of the time, let's say you only order 50 servers. So it saved a lot of time, also, and it saved a lot of cost. And that's the concept of elastic. So that was the biggest feature that AWS introduced. After that, obviously now AWS has everything. Like, AWS has the database administration thing. Like, you can plug in your database. AWS has system administration. Like, if you are a startup, you're managing different accounts for your application, then you can do that from AWS itself. Now, AWS has a complete testing suite. I emphasized on testing your application. So with AWS, you can test it. They have a complete testing suite. Also, there is a full department of machine learning. If you are interested in machine learning, they have lots of APIs. Like, there's something called a recognition API, which is for the image recognition. Then obviously Alexa, we all know about it. Everything that Alexa uses, its backend APIs and everything is available in AWS. So that is that. Then we have AWS API Marketplace. So what is API Marketplace is, like, currently what happens is, I'll give you an example. So Swiggy is a big startup, but still you will see that when you pay things, they have this thing that paid by Razorpay. So they use Razorpay APIs for payments. Similarly, people use Google authentication for logging in. Fine. And, like, there are different kinds of APIs that people use. So AWS has something called an AWS Marketplace, where they have all these different size, hundreds of thousands of APIs that you can plug in directly into the application. So they have hosted it all at the same time, same place. And also, like, something that unique that AWS has done is, like, I think we use some different kinds of ID, Visual Studio for some IDs, for web application, and for Java also. I think they use some kinds of ID. For AWS has some ID called a SageMaker, which is ID for machine learning. So it's a complete ID with, they have all kinds of functionalities. So they provide their own IDs as well. So these kinds of things are there. And basically, if you want to build anything, AWS, like, you can use it for everything. So just yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting, Raj. So, what kind of basic apps should students in college try to build? If they're interested in these fields.
Like about building apps, like I previously told also, focus on full stack development. Like don't limit yourself to a front end or just a back end. Try to do it complete end to end. At least for some time, at least you should know it, because if you know, like a lot of times what happens is people think that just, yeah, I will just learn how to make UI, or I will just learn how to make a backend, how backend code, and that is fine. But actually, the thing about hosting the app, releasing the app, these things also requires a lot of knowledge, which usually people skip because they focus mostly on learning and building the stuff. So building a stuff is a different thing, but hosting, releasing it to a people, that's a total new, different story. So if you are like working on a mobile app, let's say iOS or Android, so not just focus on the Android app, focus on the server, focus on hosting the server as well, focus on hosting the complete Android application or iOS application into the Play Store. So that is a different process in itself. And then there are different, like how do you release updates and these kinds of things. So complete and total end-to-end stories. That's what I would say.
Okay. Okay, so a lot of our mentees are interested in doing internships with, big organizations like Amazon and Swiggy and Google. So how can, our mentees apply for these internships? How can they approach these organizations?
Like there are basically 3 to 4 ways. For the number one way that you should avoid is applying on a website. Like you never get it's very hard that you will get any call. Okay, so skip about that one. But usually referral is a good thing. Like if you can get someone to refer you, that is good thing. Like there are good chances that you will get the interview. And then we have this pool campus thing. Pool campus is also very interesting thing. A lot of people are now getting pool campusing. I was actually fortunate, we got a college campusing only. And but definitely a lot of people are there who got referred also, and who went through this pool campusing thing also. So that is also there. And there are what other thing, like the I have heard people who tell that Amazon actually contacted them, but what I feel is this is only possible for when you are an experienced person, like you have 1 or 2 year experience, and companies are looking for, let's say, uh, existing experience roles, then they contact you. For students, companies hardly contact students. So for as a student, focus on the pool campuses. If they don't visit your campus, focus on referrals. And for referral, there are again different things, like you have to observe yourself. Like there are, let's say, thousands of people who have approached a person for a referral. He can't look at all those profiles, so he will only refer, let's say, hundreds of he will only refer 10 of them. And if he will refer 10 of them, the HR, she will pick only 5 of them for an interview. So these kinds of things always happen. So just make yourself presentable, like have a good what was short, a good web portfolio, do open source. Like I am a bit more biased toward open source because I was from that background. But definitely open source gives you good visibility. Like lots of good people, like lots of people who work in those companies also are active in open source, so you can make good contacts with them. And once you make contacts, then they can refer you with a better context. So basically what happens, with referrals are also not working very well these days. So what is happening is there are people are referring in bulk. That's why referrals are also not working. So usually referral also works the best when people are referring you into their internal teams. Like if let's say my manager is hiring, and if I am referring you to him, then there's a 100% chance that you will get the interview. But if let's say I am referring you to some HR, then there's very less chance that you will get the interview, because there will be a lot of people who will be also referring to the HR.
Right. So, if you get the chance, and it's finally the day of the interview, so what are the kind of questions that, HRs usually ask in the interviews?
Like you're asking for HR or you're asking for
Yeah,
technical interview?
both the rounds actually. Let's focus on the technical round.
Yeah. So it actually varies from company to company. Like mostly all the companies have good companies have like around 5 to 6 interviews, 5 to 6 rounds. And obviously the last round is more like a management round. Like that is a leadership. In Amazon we call that leadership round or something else. But initial 4 to 5 rounds will be technical round. One of them will be online coding, so get very good with it. And try to practice a bit on interview bit, lead code, these kinds of website. These kinds of website will be helpful. And also once you clear the online round, then they will ask you for face-to-face interviews. For face-to-face interviews, try to get good grasp on data structures and algorithm. You can't memorize questions, but practicing 100 of questions on a particular topic definitely gives you some confidence, and you can follow. You can also get new questions. So I will give you an example. I was asked, and one thing, like in those interviews they will push you, like they will push you till the last moment. Like if you have any doubts when you are in particular topic, when they are if they're asking you something, and if they know that yeah, this person is confused, then they will ask you on that only. So like they will push you. They won't, what should I say, they won't make it take you for granted. Like the interviews will be hard, but only thing I can say is practice hard for this thing. So focus on two things. During my thing, what I used to do is I have practiced around 300 to 400, I think, questions on lead code for on various algorithmic topics. So for me it was a bit different because I had an extra year. I was a dual degree student, so I have 5-year integrated course. But again, I was only there for last 6 months. I did an internship. So yeah, focused on doing 300 to 400 questions on lead code, these kinds of websites or geeks. So interview kit also I did practice. And other than that, there's this website called Pram that I used to use. In Pram, what used to happen that you used to get matched to unknown people for interviewing. Like it's like mutual interview. They will interview you, you will interview them. It's like it's for the face-to-face round. So these kinds of things we used to practice back then. And we also have very good group. Like I have we were like 4 very close friends, and like we're all in these kinds of companies only. Like 2 of us are in Amazon, one of them is in Google, one of it's in Microsoft. So like try to form study groups. This will be like this will be very helpful, and practice. And I will say it will take around 6 months to 1 year for practice. So don't be like that companies are coming in June, start preparing in March. Always take around 6 months in your hand. It will be good. 1 year to 6 months.
Okay. So, any specific tools or software that you guys use for development that we may not know about?
Yeah. So basically, one thing I will say is like in Amazon, basically it's we use AWS. That's the thing. But internally we use AWS. But as a software, I would give you a suggestion that these days a lot of students, not only students, like back then when I was also in college, we used to get excited about all the fancy stuffs, like new technologies that are coming in, and we used to ignore the basic softwares. And I will like there are this we have this thing called Flutter and these like Node.js. These JavaScript frameworks are there for backend, and like people Vue.js. These kinds of things are there, and Python is also there for Django for backend development. But you in these big companies they usually hardly use them. Like they use mostly rely on Java. The reason is Java provides very hard support for object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming is the concept that you will learn in your college, that you will apply the most in your work life. Like even though you need algorithmic and data structure, definitely algorithm and data structure is used when you design thing, is also actively used. But even more important than that, I think object-oriented is being used very heavily. And if you use like the modern language like Node.js, these kinds of things, these are not very well I would say object oriented language. Like their structure is not very well maintained. These are hybrid language. But Java is pure object oriented language. So focus on Java development. And with the thing with Java, like if you want to learn the best Java, like how to develop application in Java, like then you have to do open source contribution. So I have one of my colleague, like he's the best in our team when it comes to development. And the reason is like he's from an open source background. He did a Google GSOC. So I could see the difference between the way he writes the code and the way other people writes the code. So definitely focus more on, like instead of trying to start an application from the scratch when you are a student, always try to get involved with the open source. I would highly emphasize on being involved with open source. So even after this call you guys can contact me. Like we can definitely I can guide you guys also on these things. But yeah, focus more on open source, because that's the real world. Like you may develop something that may never get used, and that will not be so helpful. Like definitely, let's say for 6 months you should focus on learning. But once you have the everything that you learn, then try to collaborate with open source.
Okay, okay. So the next question that I have for you is, are profiles like GitHub and Stack Overflow asked by the industry? Like, are these important? Should mentees be there?
Like I can't say for every company. Like there are obviously companies which I know which ask for these things, like show us your GitHub profile. I have not seen anyone asking for Stack Overflow profile, so don't worry too much about that. But again, these things are important. Like when you get a bit experienced, being a student, like I told you, companies won't come after you. You will go after companies. But once you have one or two year experience, HRs or companies will actually poke you that yeah, we have an opening and we are interested. So how do they poke you? It's like they look through your, they went through Stack Overflow, they went through your portfolio, these kinds of websites. So like I give you one example, right? Like I sell my medical app. So it happened because I posted it in a community driven app, a community driven chat application, and there people noticed me that yeah, that we did this thing. So you have to make yourself visible as well, but definitely you can't expect that if I only spend time there, because being a fresher, I won't think that when definitely there are cases, but mostly they don't approach you, but as the time goes on they will approach. So do have do maintain those things also. Like these are important but not very important.
Right. Okay. So, are there any apps or websites or courses that are, very important to have
Yeah.
before venturing into this field?
Yeah. So one thing I would say is there are these courses these days which are uh, there's something I forgot actually the name, but there's a lot of these algorithmic courses that they do. I think it is something Code Mentor or these kinds of websites are there. I forgot the name exactly. I'm sorry for that. Yeah. So, but basically, always try to enroll yourself in one paid course, because induces the discipline. Like like when we were in college back 4 or 5 years back, at that time this thing was not so common that being in you are also in college and you are also paying for courses. We used to usually look for YouTube and these kinds of things, but I think I wasted a lot of time looking via YouTube. But if you, let's say, pay for a course, you get a very neat ready-made, like it's scheduled content where you don't have to look around that, okay, I read this thing, now what's the next thing I should read. So try to always get enrolled in a paid course. You will definitely get benefited. And for always, like I will say, get enrolled in an algorithmic and DS course and continue it for 6 months, and try to get enrolled in these courses in the early days of your college. Like in second year, for second year, third year, these kinds of things, you should the time you should get enrolled in these things. And also, like if you're interested in machine learning and also the specific app development, Android application, iOS application, definitely you should also get enrolled in them. And like there are industry these offers lots of like 3 month courses also and short term courses also. So that will be also helpful. Like you can get used to those things and then you can apply.
Okay. Okay, Raj. So that's about my questions. I don't really have any more questions than that, but it seems like our mentees have a lot of questions for you. So we're gonna take them up one by one. And the first question that we have for you is,
Let me just give me one second.
yeah, sure. Guys, meanwhile, drop your questions in the Q&A box. Please don't drop them in the chat box because we'll miss them.
Okay.
So yeah. So that's the first question that we have for you is, what exactly are your interests out of your job? Like outside your job, what are your interests?
My interest. So I'm also into game development. So I try to in my free time I try to work a bit on game development. But like I'm mostly interested in AI application. But the problem with AI is that single-handedly you can't build something that will be used by people. Like you have to work with collaboration. So sometimes I work on games, but sometimes I works on AI. So it's like that.
Okay. Okay. So the next question is backend not needed if we are working on AWS?
No, it's not like that. Like you do need the backend, but
Mhm.
with the you will be familiar with something called as microservice architecture or API in Amazon, or even my all the big companies, they mostly follow microservice architecture. What is microservice architecture is, Like you don't write code for any big like it's not like you have a big line of code which is like doing everything. It's like you create small components, and then you combine them to run your application, and these small components are being owned by different teams. Like the different, like if in AWS only there will be one team which will be, let's say, working on the database. Within database also there will be very small teams who will be working on specific features of the database. So that's the microservice architecture. So what's happened is, like when you use AWS kind of thing, you can actually have access to lot of the small components, like in the form of API, and you build you can combine those components, combine those APIs to create your backend application. Like you don't have to be, let's say, write code for image recognition. You may get a ready-made application, but you still need the basic backend code to interact with the API, to fetch the data, to upload the data, to do the customization. So backend is still needed, and it will be always needed.
Okay, okay. So Ayush is asking, how did you get into this field?
Get into the field of software development. So it was like, it's not like very from the childhood I knew that I would do this. It was not like I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, I think, back in school. But then definitely I got into this field, and it was because of my rank that I got into IT, and then I followed into this field. And definitely over the time I had interest. Like when I was in my first year, I used to hate computer. Like I was still thinking that I would change my stream from computer science or IT to mechanical, but eventually then I learned things, and yeah, things went well.
Okay, okay. So Changal is asking, is it okay if I learn only one language?
Yeah, definitely. Like language is like, if you want to, like, there's a two different things you should segregate yourself. First is getting a job, and second is learning things and having a hobby. So for getting a job, only one language is enough. Before For interviews, I only used to know C++. I only used to practice on C++, and all the interviews I gave on C++ only. I was even rejected by a company. I think its name was PayU. Yeah, for because they asked some Java specific questions that I didn't knew back then. But that was the only company that did thing. So it won't really matter. Focus on the basics. If you want to get the job for data structure, algorithm, database, these kinds of things, just learn them. But if you want to actually do that end-to-end thing, then definitely you will have to learn different things. But get specialized in one and get habituated with others. That's what I would say.
Okay, okay. So we have another interesting question by Somnath, and he's saying that you talked about UI, and I am studying UI UX design, and I'm really passionate about cybersecurity. So he wants to know if there is any, crossroad where both these disciplines meet.
Mm, That's actually very interesting question. Actually, I thought it like that. UI and cybersecurity. Actually, cybersecurity is very core into the backend, and UI is pretty much on the front. But yeah, definitely, like there are possibilities. Like I would give you an example. A lot of the hacking that happens is via phishing. That is, they will mock a website, and then they will they will deceive the consumer, and they will enter something. So definitely there are initiatives that are going on that they could create a hybrid UI which cannot be mocked. So these kinds of things are happening. Like if you try to mock that web, there's some hash code, some digit that can be done. Like this, all the, what should I say? What do we call them? That you have to select the characters before you can log into a website, right? Like this, you have to select some images. This is also a kind of UI innovation only that people came up with to disable the robot attacks, these kinds of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next question is, do languages like German or French create any problems in software engineering? Because I want to study software engineering abroad.
Um, I can't say about no, this thing, but as much as I know, in big companies, when you enter into a company, they will only they discuss in English. Like it's not a like we interact with companies in Spain, US. US is anyway English country, but yeah, Germany, Japan, China. These kinds of different, we interact with different people, but there's a common language, so that's not an issue. But if you go to Germany and if you join some startup there, then I think it will be an issue because they usually do things in Germany.
Okay, so this anonymous attendee wants to know what is your college name?
This is called IIEST Shibpur. Earlier, it used to be known as Beshu Shibpur. It's in Kolkata. Its full
Okay,
form is something Indian Institute of Engineering Science and Technology. You can look into that.
okay, great. So Saurabh is asking Java or Python, which language is used mostly?
Depends again. Like I am into software development, so we use mostly Java. But there are machine learning teams which use mostly Python. And if you're targeting for Java, sorry, if you're targeting for software development, which I think you should, then you should focus more on Java.
Okay, okay. So what are some easy companies to approach for open source contribution for a beginner? Panchaka is asking.
Open source like for best thing I would say is go to a website called as Google GSOC. Go to the actual official GSOC website. There you will see list of companies which actually appeared last year. Okay, there's no guarantee that they will appear in the next year also, but these companies which are appearing, that means that they are good, like they are well recognizable companies, and then you can select based on your interest. Like this, they define that yeah, this is the work that we do, this is the work that they do, and then based on your interest, you can see the GitHub profiles, and then you can contact their community, and then you can get involved.
Okay. So Ashwarya is saying that I have just started my second year and I want to get into this field. So what should I concentrate on?
Um, like during your initial years, just focus on learning the basics. It's like don't think that I remember at one time when I was in college, I was like I wanted to just make some website and do some business. These kinds of things I wanted to do, but it never happened like in that way because this actually takes time. Like it's like I remember when I was in first year, I used to think that yeah, I will make some this thing and do some business, but it don't work like that. I actually have to learn 2 years for at least 2 years so that I get the confidence that I have now that I could make anything. So just take things slow and learn things well. Do focus on the basics, and also make sure that you explore things. Like what happens is once you graduate after college, and you usually don't get too much of time to explore things also. So to keep a balance between both, like make sure that always segregate that this is the thing that you are doing for getting a job, and this is the thing that you are doing for yourself to explore things. Don't mix both of them. A lot of people what they do is they mix both of them, and they are like, yeah, I like website designing, I like machine learning, and they do that only, and they don't prepare for the job. So preparing for a job is a totally different story. Do that also.
Okay. Okay, so Karan is asking, I am from electrical engineering field, fifth semester. Is it too late to join this field now?
No, no, it's not there. I will give you one example. You are in fifth semester, right? One of my friend, he was till first year, he was in metallurgy department, and
Okay.
in second year he came into IT in my department, and in the by end of second year he had a I think yeah, by the end of second year in the third year, just in the beginning, in between semester, he had a Google internship, that too in Mountain View. So he went to Google Mountain View for 3 months, and like just 1 year he studied for software development, because before that he was in metallurgy. So definitely these kind of things happen. 6 months to 1 year is enough.
Okay. Um, so Pratik is saying, I am interested in AI and machine learning. So should I take ECE or CSE through NITs?
Oh, definitely go for CSEs. Don't go for EC. That will be a totally different story then. And obviously, once you go into EC, then also you can navigate easily. And machine learning is more like a specialization. Don't mix machine learning with software development. There's a very like it's a total different story. And usually, what I suggest to students is like till you are in your BTech year, take machine learning only as a hobby, not as a profession, because companies won't take you seriously. Take my mark my word. I work for Amazon. I can say I had a master degree back then. That's why I did got some preference into these fields. But still, if I would have a B.Tech, then what would have happened is like no matter what thing I have done in machine learning, they would treat you as a graduate only, and they usually have a preference. If you have a good master degree, for then only the companies prefer for machine learning.
Okay. Okay. So, an anonymous attendee is asking, is mechatronics a good option? What are your opinions?
I have one of my friend. He was actually from IIT Roper. He was my childhood friend. So currently he is in Japan doing mechatronics. In India, I'm not sure what's the scope of mechatronics, but definitely if you plan to go abroad, then like obviously plan proper finances and everything in advance, then only proceed into these fields, because these specialization fields are like very dangerous. Like they like if you go into them, then you have to be very careful that yeah, this is the field I am going. There is enough scope into this thing. Definitely there's a good scope in mechatronics. It's a booming field, but then again, if you're in Japan or Germany, these kinds of countries, that's very good, but in India it's a bit less.
Okay. Okay. So our next question is, which language is comparatively easier to learn, C++ or Python?
Definitely, Python is much more easier. If you are just like first time learning to write code, you're new to computer, then you should begin with Python. But eventually, when you go to the what should I say, object oriented or these kinds of things, then focus on Java. Java will be the best language to for learning object oriented programming.
Okay, okay. So Shaban is asking, I am more into robotics and electronics with IoT based stuff. Am I confusing myself with learning too many languages at the same time?
Yeah, definitely. Don't focus on too many languages. Like I remember, I definitely worked on that IoT system which I sold in my second year. So basically, that was also like in Android. It was a Bluetooth application. I only knew two languages back then: Java and Python. Java was used for Android, and Python was used for the what should I say, web server, which was interacting the thing. So all the things you can do like in single language, in one or two languages, Java with Java or with Python. Python is like if you learn Python, I think you can do anything. In robotics, you can do anything. If the web app, you can do anything. Python and JavaScript is something that I call as hobbyist language. Like if you are a hobbyist, if you try like to try new things, you always learn Java and JavaScript and Python. But again, if you are into job, like I told you in before also, always segregate your hobbies and your career. If you're targeting for job, focus on Java, and for your hobby, learn Python and JavaScript.
Okay, okay. So BBL Karthikeyan Reddy is asking, what is your opinion on game development?
Game development. It's pretty tough, I would say. Like I have been into software development for so many years. I recently started game development because this is something that a single person can do. But definitely one should try it. Like if you like these kinds of things where you like building something which can be used by others, then game development is a thing where you don't have to, like if you can make something good, people will use it's like that. But with web application, what happens is there's a lot of business is also involved. Like with web app, what happens is like you can make an e-commerce website, that is fine, but the main essence of e-commerce is within its website. Similarly, you can make an educational website, e-learning website, but main essence of the e-learning is its content. So that's a non-technical thing that is more important there. But with games, it's like it's everything in code, it's nothing other than that. So you can, if you can focus more on game development, like if you can spend 3 to 6 months in for a game, then if you make it nice, you can definitely help get a lot of interesting things. A lot of people can use it. These kinds of things happens.
Okay. So which is the most common language behind most of the apps?
Like most of the people, they use Unity, and they may be also using the Unreal Engine. I don't use the Unreal Engine, but I use Unity, and it's mostly in C Sharp. So C Sharp is the primary language for gaming, I would say.
Okay, okay. So Ayush is asking, do you have any plans to start your own startup?
That was always a dream of a child when I was a young, in my initial years in college. And let's see, like, if things works well. Like, starting a company, starting a startup is actually very different. Like, once you get into companies, get into job, like, you get like, you get used to getting paid and all those things are always there. But yeah, definitely, like, it's one of my dream that maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I would definitely want to have a startup. And yeah, like, this is something that I want to do before I die, and that's what I can say.
Okay, okay. So the next question is, you said Java is the option for software development. Did you mean just for mobile apps, or was it also for browser-based SaaS apps?
So like I told you before, the browser-based SaaS apps, they work on microservice architecture. Microservice architecture is basically you create small components. Now each of the small components are a same separate web application within themselves. And in all those big companies, they have a different version of themselves, and they make them in Java. So in with Java, you can make those web application. Definitely, like, if you are making, let's say, a small website, then obviously Java will look like an overkill. Like, you're working too much, you're doing too many things to make this website or make a web server. But when things scale up, then Java is actually pretty what should I say, very structured way to scale things up. If I make some, like, if I ask you, like, you'd ask me for about being a startup. So if I start a startup, and I would say, if I do a POC, what sort of POC kind of thing, proof of concept kind of thing, when I just want to demo something to the investors, that time I will use this Node.js, JavaScript, or Python kind of thing. But when I actually, if I will build something for the customers to use, I will try to make the backend in Python, or try to make this in Java. And if not possible, then I would go for Python. I would never go for Node.js. That's what I can say.
Okay. So the next question is, assume that I'm working on a real-time object detection project, but it requires good GPU. So can AWS help in that?
Yeah, definitely. AWS provides you with a 1 year free trial where you can use AWS credits for free year for the first year. Obviously, the GPU that they allot is a bit limited, but GPUs, when you go through AWS, they are not very costly. There are cheaper alternatives as well. Like, there's one very good initiative from Google. They do is there's something called as Google Colab. You can learn about this. So they provide very good, like, sufficient GPU for you to test your student applications. Like, the scale at which students work, that will be sufficient. There's also a monthly subscription. That is, if you pay 500 rupees per month, they will provide you ample GPU. It's like more like a notebook style, Jupyter notebook style thing. And they provide, with the 500 rupees subscription, they provide very good GPU options as well. And there's one limitation that you can use your GPU in continuous only for 24 hours, and after that they will clear all your data, and that kinds of things are there. But I think, yeah, 24 hours is sufficient if you can use saving the data, these kinds of things. In AWS, they have something called a student partner program, where if you somehow can log in with your student email ID and these kinds of things, then there's definitely always a concession for students in AWS.
Okay, okay, Raj. So that was brilliant. We had an amazing session, and mentees still have a lot of questions for you, but due to time constraints, we cannot take all of them. So would you please share your email ID or your LinkedIn ID so that mentees can get in touch with you after the webinar and ask away their questions?
Yeah, sure. I would say you can just search me on LinkedIn. What should I give my link here, or what? Like, my
Yeah.
email. Yeah, my email. I think too many emails I would get. That's why I will share my LinkedIn. Okay, let me. Also, I have one of my blog where I used to post regularly, but these days I'm not getting too much of time. But I think you can just search my name in LinkedIn, Rajpratim Bhattacharya. I think there are a few. It's pretty unique name. You can get me there, and let me provide you some more things. Just a second.
Okay.
Should I? This is my LinkedIn profile, and this is a LinkedIn group that I have. Also, I'm posting here.
Okay.
This is a LinkedIn group. I usually post about interview preparation sometimes, but not always. But yeah. Also, there's one website that I sometimes blog. So this thing here, I usually post like this. This will help you with interviews kind of thing. And this is something there. So you can contact me on LinkedIn, And from there are also there's this group and all those things are there, so you can contact me there. And like if I give you my email, the thing will be like there will be so many messages that I won't be able to reply to all of you, but in LinkedIn I think it will be much more limited. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
it
great.
will be more in client.
Yeah, thank you so much, Raj,
Yeah.
for sharing all these links with us. And thank you so much for giving this 1 hour to us. We learned a lot of new things tonight, and it's been amazing to have you over. And a big thanks to the Qfuss team for arranging such fabulous mentors for us. So thank you, Raj. It was nice seeing you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, thanks.
thanks to all the mentees who joined us tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you over. We were about 100 mentees tonight, so thank you so much for being such an amazing audience. And you can contact Raj. I've dropped the links in the chat box. So stay safe and keep learning new things. But this is it for tonight. This is Yashi Gupta signing off. Ta-da, bye-bye.
Okay, okay then, bye bye.